National Training Conclave and Mission Karam Yogi. What is the context? So the context is Prime Minister recently inaugurated the first ever National Training Conclave at the International Exhibition and Convention Center in New Delhi to strengthen the training infrastructure for civil servants across India. Now, what is this National Training Conclave all about? It is a part of the Mission Karam Yogi, which aimed at bringing together all civil services training institutes in a common setting and identify strategies to improve together. Now, when it comes to the civil services training institutes, the IAS officers are trained in the Labasna, okay. The IPS officers, after finishing their foundation batch at Labasna, they move to Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel National Police Academy in Hyderabad. When it comes to foreign services, again after finishing their foundation course in the Labasna, they also move to the institute which is there for the Indian Foreign Services in New Delhi. So this National Training Conclave basically intends to identify the strategies that how we can further enhance the capacity building of the civil servants in India. So it intends to foster collaboration among civil services training institutes and bolster the training infrastructure for civil servants across the country, to provide a platform for networking, knowledge exchange, identifying challenges and key areas of collaboration. It is hosted by Capacity Building Commission and it has more than 1,500 representatives from central training institutes, state administrative training institutes, etc. It also included civil servants from central, state, local government along with experts from private sector. It had 8 panel discussion, each focusing upon these aspects. Okay. Now the thing that we need to understand with regard to this article is, what are the issues that we are witnessing with regard to bureaucracy in India? Bureaucracy, as we all know, it forms the backbone of the administrative setup which is there in India, and the civil servants are basically recruited by the government on a merit basis. Now, what are the issues that we are witnessing with regard to bureaucracy in India? First is rule book bureaucracy. Let's try and understand this with the help of an example. Now, let's suppose there is a particular scheme which intends to provide pension to certain categories of people, okay. Now, in that particular scheme, the conditions have been specified in that very scheme itself. And let's suppose there is an old lady who meet all the other criteria, eligibility criteria which is mentioned in that scheme except one, okay, which is related to some of the documentation which that lady does not have. So going by this rule book bureaucracy, what the bureaucracy is right now doing is, it is strictly adhering to the rules. That is severely impacting the implementation, or it is severely impacting the capacity of the bureaucracy to meet the actual needs of the people. So going by this rule book bureaucracy, we are rejecting this old lady the benefit of this very scheme, rather than helping this old lady in getting the requisite document that are required for her to become a intended beneficiary under this very scheme. Okay, so this is one problem. Then when it comes to civil servants, they lack specialized skill set, which is becoming important in the era of economic reforms, after the LPG reforms, and in the era of e-governance, as new sort of challenges like cyber security challenges are coming up, and as we are moving towards disinvestments of different PSUs. So now the civil servants also need the project management skills as well, okay, which is lacking when it comes to the civil servants in India currently. Then there is political interference when it comes to the bureaucracy. So unnecessary transfers are done by the political leaders. Then the bureaucracy is detached from the public. Now when the bureaucracy is detached from the public, it becomes difficult for the bureaucracy to understand the actual need of the people, which severely constrain their capability when it comes to contributing in effective policy formulation. And when it comes to bureaucracy, they are reluctant to change. When it comes to adoption of new ideas, when it comes to adoption of new technology. Okay. So these are the challenges or the issues that we are witnessing with regard to bureaucracy in India. And what we actually need when it comes to bureaucracy is, we need an skilled bureaucracy. So we need to provide the civil servants with requisite skills, specialized skill set like project management skills, like digital skills, etc. because we are moving in the era of e-governance. Then we need converged bureaucracy. So there should be interdepartmental coordination, interministerial coordination, etc. Then we need an open bureaucracy which is open to new ideas, which is open to collaborative approach, okay, wherein it, on a regular basis, it consults with the private sector, with the civil society that is there, universities, research institutions, etc. in order to get their valuable inputs for the policy formulation. And it should be also ready to collaborate with the different states that is there, different ministries and departments should coordinate with each other, and they should also collaborate with international organizations as well in order to learn the best practices, okay, in order to learn from each other. So these are the things that we require in the current bureaucracy. Now let's look into this aspect, that how this Mission Karam Yogi is going to address the challenges that we are witnessing with regard to Indian bureaucracy. Now when it comes to Mission Karam Yogi, it is a national program for civil services capacity building launched in 2020 to reform Indian bureaucracy and prepare civil servants for the future through a competency framework for civil services that would be totally indigenous to India and will cover around this many central employees. Objective is to make and to build a future ready civil service with right attitude, skills, knowledge aligned to the vision of new Indian by making them more creative, constructive, imaginative, etc. Now, let's try and understand that how this Mission Karam Yogi is going to address the issues that we discussed with regard to bureaucracy in India. Now, when it comes to Mission Karam Yogi, it carries out capacity building of the civil servants by adopting a 70-20-10 approach. Okay, 70% of the learning civil servants do through on-site training, okay, from their experiences of their own job. 20% of the learning they do through peer review, okay, through sharing of experiences among the peers. 10% through class learning, class training or class training modules, okay. This thing we experimented with section officers and assistant section officers, okay. So instead of training them with regard to the routine administrative tasks, we trained them with the requisite digital skills that they would be requiring to handle the, e-procurement websites that are there of the government, to effectively handle the RTI queries, etc. And we also provided them the requisite digital, data processing skills. So this resulted in increase in 70% of efficiency of these officers. They are effectively addressing the RTI queries. They are effectively addressing the data processing. Okay. Then under this, we are promoting peer-to-peer learning. This is something that we are doing with regard to the railway staffs. So on a regular basis, the officers belonging to railways, they, share their Karam Yogi incidents and they get applause from their seniors, supervisors, etc. And this further motivates them to become a Karam Yogi, to become a true civil servant, serve the nation. Okay. Then we are also promoting cross learning among the civil servants and among the private sector. Okay. As we are moving towards the disinvestment of Air India, So what the government has done is, the people who are engaged in the airline regulation, they have been made to collaborate with the private sectors, companies which are there, okay? And they are also made to collaborate with the airports which are managed privately, like GMR Airport in Hyderabad, okay? So that they could learn best managerial practices from the private sector. So we are also promoting cross learning in this. Then we are moving towards whole government approach. What is this whole government approach? As I discussed, we need a converged bureaucracy. So we need to address the interdepartmental, communication that is there. We need to promote the learning and the communication between the different ministries, different departments which are there. And that is what we are doing under this Mission Karam Yogi. This is something that we have witnessed with regard to Wildlife Institute of India and the railways. So what happened in the northeastern and in the south railways? Time and again, the animals used to get affected on account of train collisions. So the Wildlife Institute of India and Railways collaborated with each other, and they are outlining how we can prevent the animal-human conflict that is happening, okay, on account of train collisions, on account of, railway tracks moving from the areas which are inhabited by the animals, which are used by the animals as animal corridors. So when the Wildlife Institute of India and Railways collaborated, they came up with good ideas like building underpasses when it comes to the railway tracks, okay, to avoid killing of animals on account of trains. Then when it comes to Mission Karam Yogi, we are moving towards role-based from rule-based. What is role-based? So now the government would be allocating a particular role to a civil servant based on that particular individual skills and competency and what is being required by that particular role, okay? So we are moving towards role-based, and we are developing specialized civil servants. How? So when it comes to members of the civil servants who are engaged in the skill councils, so they are being trained in the business schools, and the junior CBI officers or the officers which are engaged in investigative agencies, they are being provided the requisite skill set that how they are supposed to use the forensics and DNA technologies, okay? So we are creating a specialized civil services. So this is how this Mission Karam Yogi is going to address the different issues that we are witnessing with regard to the civil services or bureaucracy in India. Now let's look into the features of this very mission. It intends to change the mindset of the civil servants. So under this, we are trying to make sure that the government officials consider themselves as Karam Yogis instead of considering themselves as Karamcharis. Karam Yogis are basically those who are empathetic towards the need of the people. Change in workplace, from assigning individual responsibility for performance to diagnosing the constraint in a civil servant's performance by using means, motive and opportunity framework. Moving the public HR management system from being rule-based to role-based, as I discussed right now. We are moving to rule-based rather than being, we are moving towards role-based rather than being rule-based, okay? Because rule-based bureaucracy is one of the issues that we witness with regard to our bureaucracy. Now, when we look at the institutional framework of this mission, we have Prime Minister Human Resource Council, we have Cabinet Secretary Coordination Unit, Capacity Building Commission, Karmayogi Bharat, Special Purpose Vehicle is there, Program Management Unit is there, which would be looking into the implementation of this very scheme. Then, what is the approach that is being adopted by the government? So, we will be defining the vision for civil service performance as it identifies the goal towards which the capacity of the civil services is being built. Then, we have come up with framework of roles, activities and competencies. So, what we are going to do in this is, we would be identifying that what all skill set, what all competency a civil servants require for a particular post, and accordingly, the training modules would be, changed accordingly. So, The ministries under this would be able to clearly and explicitly specify the roles and the activities which are associated with each position across different ministries and the competencies required to perform those roles and activities well. This will help in transitioning the capacity building system from being rule-based to role-based. Okay, so accordingly we will be making changes in the online training module which is being provided to the civil servants according to that very position to which they are being appointed to. Now we have this platform, Integrated Government Online Training platform, that owes all the digital learning resources to be used in capacity building process, and it consists of these 6 hubs that are there. Then annual capacity building plan would also be laid down to bring comprehensive reform to the existing capacity building framework at both the individual and organizational level. So we need to continuously work in the direction of capacity building of our civil servants. We need to make continuous modification in the framework that we have put in place. Then what would be the benefits? More or less we have discussed the benefits in detail. So it will improve human resource management practice across civil officers. It would be more focus on role-based management, as officers would be allocated roles and jobs based on their competencies. Okay. Training programs would be aligned with the roles assigned to officer. This will help in providing right knowledge, skill and attitude. Okay. This we have discussed in framework of roles. There will be uniform training programs for all civil servants, and there will be more focus on-site learning in complementing off-site learning. As I have discussed, on-site learning is what the civil servants learn through their own job experiences in their respective position, and off-site learning is what they are made to learn through the class training modules that is there. Okay, so this is regarding this Mission Karam Yogi.